Kurt Busch says he has a deal close to being done for the 2022 season. NASCAR 21 has officially been revealed. Christopher and Kyle Larson might have a beef, and Jimmie Johnson continues to reiterate that he may be interested in a one-off return to NASCAR. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to another video. We've got a lot of NASCAR stories to discuss here today on the channel. Let's go just straighten those very quickly. Before I jump into all the other stories, we got to start this on a very sad note. Unfortunately, Monday evening, it was announced that Bob Jenkins had passed away at the age of 73. Bob Jenkins had been battling brain cancer, I believe, for the last 8 months, and unfortunately, he has passed away due to brain cancer. For a lot of you who know who Bob Jenkins is, for a lot of younger fans, Bob Jenkins is arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, motorsports commentators of all time. He did NASCAR and ESPN from 1981 to 2000, also covered IndyCar races, among other motorsports races as well. Bob Jenkins, like I said, was 73 years old, and my prayers and condolences still go out to his family, his day. And Bob, thank you for everything you have done, and it sucks what happened, and it really is unfortunate what happened. Thank you. Now we're going to go and jump onto all the other major stories on today's episode. Next story we're going to talk about is Kyle Larson. As Kyle Larson this last weekend won the 26th annual Sage Fruit Front Row Challenge 410 Wing Sprint Car Race on Monday evening. Kyle Larson the day before won the Cup Series race at Watkins, Glen, and he was able to go on and win the next night at a sprint car race. It doesn't matter what series Kyle Larson is racing in. It seems like Kyle Larson is going to go out there and win races. It's really cool to see him win. Again, seems like every time he wins a Cup race, the next time he goes win a sprint car race. Again, it doesn't matter what car he gets into, he is going to be really fast. So it was really cool to see that Kyle Larson was able to go out there and pick up the victory in this event, and really cool to see Kyle Larson go into victory lane. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode. We're going to talk about Worldwide Technology Raceway, as the Truck Series race has an official title sponsor. The Toyota truck dealers and Toyota dealers in the St. Louis area are going to sponsor the Truck Series race, and the Truck Series race is going to be called the Toyota 200. I'm very surprised, considering it's like a Chevy and Ford have a big association with the area, so I'm a little surprised that Toyota is getting involved as sponsor, but it's really cool that Toyota is going to be sponsoring the NASCAR Truck Series race, as it will be the first race for the NASCAR Truck Series Plus. Really cool to see that Toyota is going to be sponsoring that event. It is really cool overall for sure. Jump on to the next story of today's episode. We're going to talk about one paint scheme on the channel. I know I did say that I was not really going to be showing any paint schemes on the channel going forward, but I've changed my mind for one exception. That's Kyle Larson's 2021 Cincinnati Incorporated scheme that we're going to see next weekend at Michigan, and we're going to see at Talladega as well. This paint scheme looks absolutely incredible. They did a really good job on it. You also get the patriotic colors. One thing I would change, and I think Lefty knows Sweet, also known as Lefty, one thing I like to see is maybe a yellow number. Other than that, I think this paint scheme is really good. I think the 5-car Kyle Larson's cars have looked really cool. This one is no exception. I think they did a really good job on this paint scheme, and I definitely look forward to see this one out on the racetrack in those upcoming races. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Tim Veens. Tim Veens is going to be driving the number 74 for Mike Harmon Racing at Daytona. Now, the 74 car is locked in currently on points. Tim Veens has raced in the Truck Series for his own organization and raced Cicerelli's organization in the past as well. Has not ran very well. But I do think that, especially with 74 having a little more competitive speed, I can see this car running up front, especially if it being a super speed race where everyone has a good opportunity to be really competitive. I would not be surprised if we would see Tim Veens be extremely fast in the race. And again, it's really cool that, I mean, I'm kind of a big fan, not big fan of Team Veens, but I think it's really cool that he is getting an opportunity to once again race in the NASCAR Xfinity Series once again. I think he's made a couple slick starts in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I'm not exactly sure, but it's cool that Tim Veens will get another opportunity in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And now we're going to jump on to the next stories of today's episode. We're going to talk about now the entry list for the Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and some pretty big entries as well. The first one we're going to talk about is Spencer Pambelli. Spencer Pambelli will drive the 0 car for JD Motorsports this weekend at the Indianapolis Road Course. Spencer Pambelli has ran a couple races so far for JD Motorsports. He ran really well at Circuit Americas. I also do believe he ran either at Road America or another track. I don't remember exactly what the other track was that he did race, but he's ran a couple times this year. And I'll be honest, of all the road racers that have raced for JD Motorsports this year, I have to say that he has been very one of the more competitive drivers overall. So I'm really wishing the best luck to Spencer Pambelli, and hope he's able to have a good run next weekend. The next entry we're going to talk about is Ryan Eversley. Ryan Eversley is going to drive the number 6 car for JD Motorsports this weekend at the Indianapolis Road Course. already competed this year for Ricker Racing in the NASCAR Cup Series. I believe this will be his first ever NASCAR Xfinity start. I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Eversley runs really well. I know it seems like whoever drives the 6 car, it seems like they're cursed regardless who's in ride when it comes to road racing. But I do think that Ryan Eversley has a shot to not be cursed and run very well this weekend. I think that car is going to have pretty good speed overall. The next entry we're going to talk about is Mike Skeen, as Mike Skeen is going to be driving the number 15 for JD Motorsports this weekend at the Indianapolis Road Course. Mike Skeen is a guy that has raced the NASCAR Truck Series quite a few times, raced at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. A lot of people remember him for his feud with Max Papis at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park when his wife basically slapped him and she got indefinitely suspended. He made his NASCAR Xfinity Series return in 2018 at Road America, where I think he had a decent run overall. I think Mike Skeen's one driver I would be very surprised to see a good run, but we've seen his cars be very, very competitive. I think he's one we have to definitely keep an eye on for sure. The next driver we're going to talk about is Kyle Tilley, as Kyle Tilley will be driving the number 5 for BG McLeod Motorsports this weekend in the NASCAR Xfinity Series at the Indianapolis Road Course. I expect Kyle Tilley to be pretty fast and have decent speed. We've seen the BG McLeod cars, especially Kevin Hart running one of those cars this weekend. I think this car, especially with having Indy and Kevin Hart being there, I think it will help Kyle Tilley overall. I would not be surprised to see maybe a top 25 or even a top 20 in this event. I think we're going to have very competitive events in the Indy Road Course, especially with all the different entries that we're going to see this weekend. And we're going to see Kyle Tilley drive the 5 car this weekend for BG McLeod Motorsports. The next entry we're going to talk about is AJ Allmendinger, as AJ Allmendinger is going to drive the number 16 car for Collard Racing in the NASCAR Cup Series at the Indianapolis Road Course. I think AJ, for the Cup race, he absolutely has a really, really good chance of winning. And the reason I mentioned he has a very, very good opportunity and a very good chance of winning is because AJ Allmendinger is really, really good road course racer. We've seen him win a lot of Xfinity Series races on road course. In fact, he's tied for the most road course wins in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I believe beside Marcus Ambrose, I believe he's tied for the most road course victories in Xfinity, and he's also a really good road course racer overall as well. So I think AJ has a very, very good shot of being competitive in the event, and I think we'll have to keep an eye on for sure in the event. And the final entry, big entry I really want to talk about is MBM Motorsports, as they have entered into the NASCAR Cup Series race at the Indianapolis Road Course. They originally were not on the initial entry list, but they announced a couple days ago, in fact, yesterday, as a matter of fact, on Tuesday, that they were going to be running the event. The driver, this should surprise nobody, is going to be Timmy Hill. I expect Timmy Hill to have some not run really, really fast. There are 40 cars, so they are going to be locked in the event regardless of how fast they are. They're probably not going to have a lot of speed, but I've been surprised. I've seen some surprising runs from some organizations in these events, and it is really cool, though, that we're going to see him run for MBM Motorsports. I think he'll have a lot of speed. Well, not a lot of speed, but I think that he'll be a surprise, definitely for sure, to see, and really looking forward to see him make his return, and great to see that MBM Motorsports is running. I'm not exactly sure how many more races MBM is going to run this year, but it's really cool to see that they are going to run again later this year. And now we're going to jump onto the really, really big entry for the NASCAR Xfinity Series that everyone has been talking about. Max Papis is making his official NASCAR return this weekend at the Indianapolis Road Course. He will drive the number 17 for SS Greenlight Racing with Rick Ware Association at the Indianapolis Road Course. The last time Max Papis competed in NASCAR was 2013 at that Truck Series race at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. He has been teasing throughout this year that he would have liked to race, and he actually, as a matter of fact, wanted to race regardless of what top tier series he ran. He wanted to actually race at, I believe it was Coda. He wanted to race earlier this year, but he's finally getting an opportunity. I think Max Papis has a very good shot of being competitive in this car. I would not be surprised to see this car run maybe in the top 10 or even the top 15. You look at Max Papis' statistics. He's won a lot of kart races. He's won some IndyCar races. He's also been very, very competitive in NASCAR throughout his career, regardless of what ride he's in. He's been very, very competitive. And I think that Max Papis, especially with these cars being decent, we've seen J.J. Yeley run really well with these cars. We've seen other drivers run really, really well with these cars. I think that Max Papis overall has a very good shot of being extremely competitive in these events. And I'm so happy he's been back. Like I said, he's been teasing for a while that he wants to make a return to NASCAR, and it's really good to see that Max Papis is coming back. I've been wanting him to come back for a very, very long time, and now the fact that he's officially going to be making his return to NASCAR overall is really, really cool to see, and I'm looking forward to that for sure. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Road America. As since NASCAR is heading their there is going to be a repave that is going to be taking place after the 2022 season. I'm not exactly sure if Road America has ever been repaved. The road course track has ever been repaved. I believe it's maybe the first or second time they are repaving it. And some drivers have not been very happy about it. Kyle Larson said it's going to be very difficult to what entails. But drivers like Jeremy Clements have spoken out against it. We've seen some drivers like Kyle Tilley spoke out against it, among others, that have spoken out against the change to repave Road America. And honestly, it's no surprise that they're repaving. We've seen NASCAR when they've come into town, regardless of what series they're in. It seems like they're going to repave it or make changes to the racetrack. I'm just hoping that it's similar to other racetracks where they have gone and repaved and stuff. I'm just hoping it doesn't turn the racetrack into where it's unraceable. Because let's be for real, Road America has been one of my favorite road courses on the schedule. I know the Cup Series race was kind of blank, but you look at the Xfinity Series race that took place earlier this year. We saw some really, really good racing over there. So, like I said, it's not expected to happen next year. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do with it. I just hope it doesn't turn the racing really, really bad. It seems like when NASCAR comes into town, when they do repave the track, it doesn't end up looking really, really good long term. So hopefully it doesn't turn into a much more bigger issue than it is currently at the moment. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about the AllStar Race. Now, Texas Motor Speedway, which had the AllStar Race this year, is advertising that they will basically be having the 2022 AllStar Race once again in June. While this has not been 100% confirmed at this time by NASCAR for their schedule, which is expected to come out at the end of this month or at some point this month, Texas Motor Speedway is advertising that they are going to have the All-Star Race. Now, I'm going to say something about the All-Star Race this past year. I don't think the All-Star Race was terrible, but it wasn't really great either. However, it was a gimmick-up race, and there's a lot of gimmicks. They really gimmicked that race up to hell, basically to make the racing really, really good. And it actually was not unbearable to watch like I thought it was going to be. I will say the beginning of the event was really, really unbearable to watch, but as the event dragged on and gone on, it was a really, really good event overall, and I really, really enjoyed the event. So, again, it is what it is. I wish it goes somewhere else. Again, one thing I like to see is a rotation of different tracks. Get it, maybe go back to Bristol some, but maybe go to all the SMI tracks and change it up right there. But I guess this has a lot to do with any Gossage's clauses why so COTA could have a race next year, which I think this also confirms another thing. I think that we're going to be seeing COTA come back to the schedule next year. So they looks like the All-Star Race coming back next year to Texas Motor Speedway, but we'll have to wait till the schedule comes out to be 100% for sure. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, is we're going to talk about the Nashville Fairgrounds. It was reported yesterday by Papis that he said at Nashville's board meeting, Bristol's consultant said talks on the Fairgrounds Speedway financing construction continue with Mayor's office and hopes to have something to present to board very soon. Bristol and City have oral agreement extending later of intent through August 20th. And they also have a letter 10, I believe, they'll also go through maybe 2022 as well. Remember, the original deadline for this, I believe, is August 1st. It looks like they've extended it. There has been advanced talks, apparently. Now, just remember a little bit of background. There's a lot of people that have been against it. A lot of people still believe it's going to happen at this point. But there's been a lot of people that live in the area that have been against it because of noise issues. Now, they did have noise mitigations for the SRS races that took place and also the Nashville Street Course race. You had some noise mitigations right there that took place with some mufflers for the SRX race. And honestly, I want to see Nashville Fairgrounds come back. It would be really, really big for the city. And if you look at the national market overall, the national market is really, really big. And I think that it would be huge for the city if you could bring that back. Just my honest opinion. But it's very interesting to see that we've had more reports on the Nashville Fairgrounds. Marcus Smith has said also recently that the earliest we would see a cup race in the Nashville Fairgrounds would probably 2020, or NASCAR in general in top tier divisions will be 2023. I honestly think the earliest we're going to see a race in Nashville Fairgrounds for the Cup Series is probably 2024. We'll have to keep an eye on the story for sure, but it looks like there's more details coming on that. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode. We're going to talk about the ratings from Watkins, Glen, and the IndyCar race as well at Nashville. First, let's talk about the Watkins Glen TV ratings. According to Adam Stern, NBCSN earned a 1.25 rating and 2.124 million viewers for Sunday's Go Bowling at the Glen. That's down from a 2.722 million viewers for 2019. This, however, was the most watched sporting event on cable TV for the weekend. I will say that is a little bit lower compared to other races that have happened on NBCSN. Generally, NBCSN races get about 2.5 to 3 million viewers unless it's at a different racetrack. I do think a lot of it has to do with, one, road course races generally are not that popular, even Chase Elliott being the most popular driver. Road course races generally do not tend to be very, very popular for the people. On top of it, it was a little bit earlier in the day. Again, I thought the race was really, really good. But I also do think another big reason, I'm not sure exactly sure if the Olympics were going on at the time. I do think that maybe some Olympic games are going on at the time. But again, the ratings could be a little bit better. And NASCAR should be getting about 2.5 to around that 3 million viewer range for NBCSN. Again, 2.1 isn't the worst I've ever seen for a race on NBCSN, but it could honestly be better. It's at least better than Pocono, but we need a little bit better ratings going for that. So that's the ratings for Watkins Glen. Now, the Music City GP that took place this weekend for the IndyCar race, this is actually really, really good news. It was reported by Adam Stern around this time as well that NBCSN earning 1.212 million viewers for Sunday's inaugural Music City GP on the streets of Nashville. It is believed to be the most watched IndyCar race on cable since 1988, according to NBC. That is huge for IndyCar. IndyCar this year definitely has had a huge increase when it comes to TV ratings overall this year. And I think a lot of that has been helped with Indianapolis. But I think a lot of it is due to NASCAR. There was also a chart that came out that said, for NASCAR and IndyCar comparison right there, NASCAR got a 4.1 in the NASCAR, which isn't bad. Well, it isn't fantastic. The IndyCar race got a 5.9. And keep in mind, there were a ton of fans that went to the IndyCar race. So you have a lot of fans that went to that event as well. I think they had like almost 100,000 people that went out to the first race in Nashville. On top of that, he had the largest IndyCar entry since 2011, largest entry of a field. And next week at Indy, there's going to be 28 cars with Top Gun Racing entering that event. I think that this is huge for IndyCar, and it shows that IndyCar is on the way up right now. And if they keep doing the things that they're doing with the larger entry fields, more people getting involved in the event. On top of that, I have not seen so many NASCAR fans talk about a race like this. They promoted the hell out of this, and you really wanted to tune in the event, especially NASCAR leading up to it. I think it really, really helped the ratings overall. So really, really good ratings overall for the Music City GP, and it's something that you should definitely be really, really happy about and really excited about for sure. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about North Wilkesboro. Now, it was reported earlier today that North Wilkesboro and the state of North Carolina and the government has basically increased the budget of North Wilkesboro from up to $10 million to $20 million. It had originally been reported that North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, Rockingham Speedway, and Charlotte Motor Speedway were each going to get $10 million. And Charlotte and Rockingham are both going to still get $10 million each. But they have increased the sales for the North Wilkesboro area. This is huge for North Wilkesboro. Remember, they are trying to repair North Wilkesboro and making a return. And the fact that they are putting in, instead of $10 million, $20 million into North Wilkesboro, I think is much, much bigger than people realize. I'm not exactly sure how much money they're going to need. There's been reports saying that they maybe need $11 to $12 million. There's been other reports saying they need $50 to $60 million. But you've got Marcus Lemonis, who says he'll basically pledge $1 million. We're in Camping World out there. You've had other people that have been getting involved. I know Dale Jr.'s probably spent a little bit of money probably to get the track repaved. And now you have the state of North Carolina getting involved and invested to invest into that. This is huge for North Wilkesboro to make its turn. We've been talking about for a long time that I think it was really started last year with the pandemic when they brought it there, and then Marcus said coming back in the Dale Jr. download. We continue to hear more and more about the potential of this track coming, and I'll tell you, 10 years ago, this track race, it's been almost 10 years since they last raced. But the fact now that it's very likely, and it's becoming more and more likely on a day-by-day basis, on a week-by-week basis, as a matter of fact, that North Wilkesboro could come back overall is huge. That would be very, very big overall, and hopefully it does happen for the North Wilkesboro area, because I think it'd be big for the town of the Wilkes County area, and even North Wilkesboro and Santa Speedway, they really wanted to come back. So I am very hopeful and very, very hopefully excited that we'll see North Wilkesboro come back very, very soon. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Iowa Speedway. Now, it was reported by Adam Stern that IndyCar is in advanced talks with NASCAR about a deal to restore Iowa Speedway to the IndyCar schedule in 2022, with Hy-Vee likely to serve as title sponsor. This is something that had originally been reported by David Lamb, but it looks like that those talks have advanced in regards to Iowa coming back. Remember, Iowa was not on any sort of schedule this year except the ARCA Series. They were at the ARCA Series. Let's be for real, the crowd and attendance for that race was really, really poor. If you did watch the event and you did see the attendance for that event was extremely poor. It was not very, very good. But I will tell you something about Iowa Speedway. I thought the racing was very, very solid. But the biggest thing is the attendance and the money that they were getting into the event. They were losing a lot of money. That being said, with the fact that Hy-Vee is getting involved with that too. Hy-Vee's a huge brand, by the way, up in the Midwest. For a lot of you don't know, Hy-Vee's like a really big supermarket chain. And apparently they're behind this partnership as well to try to get this event back going and Iowa Speedway overall back going and around the area. So this is huge overall. And honestly, one thing I'd like to maybe see is a potential NASCAR and IndyCar doubleheader happening. I think it would be really, really big for the area, be really, really big for the Iowa area, and it would be huge news overall for sure. And hopefully it does go through and it ends up happening that we'll see Iowa Speedway back on the schedule next year. It looks like because IndyCar only has 3 or 4 oval races this year, and 2 of those are at Texas Motor Speedway. And let's be real, the oval package hasn't been great, but always the IndyCar races that took place there have been really, really good. So hopefully it does come back on the schedule next year. It looks like it's very, very likely that next year's schedule we will see IndyCar. And maybe we'll see NASCAR could get back on the schedule, Iowa. We'll have to keep an eye on that for sure, but it looks like Iowa could be coming back here very, very soon. And now we're going to jump on to the first of 4 major stories of today's episode, as we're going to first talk about NASCAR 21. NASCAR 21 has officially revealed a lot of details in regards to today, and the game is going to be called NASCAR 21 Edition. The trailer was officially revealed today, and I have to say the trailer they did looks absolutely incredible. The graphics look really, really awesome. They did a really good job. The details are out there. This game looks really, really awesome, and it does look like a AAA game. The game will be officially released on October 20th. You can pre-order the game starting tomorrow, well, technically today, August 12th. You also can pre-order, I believe it's going to be $60 for the standard edition. I believe that the gold edition is going to be either $79.99 or $89.99. I'm exactly sure how much is going to be. If you get the standard edition, you're going to get the normal, you're going to get Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace on the cover. If you get the gold edition, you'll actually get a little bit more than that. So that's really big for the cover right there. Now, one thing that a lot of people have been discussing about is that there's going to be no Xfinity Series or trucks. There's also been people that have mentioned that, there's no championship motor, season motor, anything like that. I'm not exactly sure on that front. But one big thing is the soundtrack. This is going to be a AAA soundtrack. You have MGK, Imagine Dragons, Aerosmith, Luke Combs, Leonard Skinner, among others that are going to be on the soundtrack as well. First thing I want to talk about, this has got me a little more hyped up and a little bit more excited. But I will say that there are things, and again, I am not expecting this game to absolutely be perfect. I expect this game to be okay. Well, I expect this game to be decent standards. I expect this game to be a lot better than NASCAR 5. I expect this game to be better than NASCAR 4, and I really enjoy NASCAR 4. But I expect this game to be better than that, especially motorsports games getting involved in R-Factor physics coming in the game. I do expect the game to be a hell lot better going into next year. And hopefully that does end up coming true, and it does end up becoming the case for the franchise to keep the franchise rolling and stuff. Again, it's a new rebranding of the game. Again, like I said, I've seen a lot of people that are frustrated. There are features not in it. I think, in my personal opinion, look at some of the greatest NASCAR games that have ever come out. NASCAR Thunder 2003, NASCAR Thunder 2004. What did those games not have? They did not have an Xfinity Series or Truck Series. They had a career mode with just the Cup Series. Yes, they had some Xfinity Series cars that were in there, but you did not have an NASCAR Xfinity Series or a Truck Series feel like you did now. And people love those games. I don't understand why people are upset they're not bringing the NASCAR Xfinity Series, Truck Series. They're going to bring it eventually. They're going to eventually bring the features. You have to get the basics right before you can add all the different features into the game. I think that this move will work out much better in the favor of NASCAR Heat, and it will be very, very big overall, in my honest opinion. But this is a really big day for NASCAR 21 fans, including myself, and I'm definitely going to be getting the game for sure, along with a couple games that are coming out really, really soon. And now we're going to jump on to the next major story of today's episode, as we are talking about Jimmie Johnson. We've already discussed on the channel about a week ago how Jimmie Johnson is still seriously considering a potential one-off return in NASCAR. He spoke earlier today to Alex Andrebek from the Charlotte Observer, and he says he would seriously consider running a NASCAR race if right opportunity would come along. Now, Jimmie Johnson also reiterated something we've already talked about. That he says he only wants to run about 20 races a year. He has 4 IMSA races planned for this year so far, along with, I believe, 15 or 60 IndyCar races this year. So it'll probably almost fill up the 20 race calendar. So I'm not sure if this year would be in the cards for Jimmie Johnson to come back. I would like to see Jimmie Johnson come back on a one-off return. Now, for me, what track would I like to see Jimmie Johnson run and what team? He won't go to Hendrick Motorsports because Hendrick Motorsports, maybe they have the cap with the charter agreement, the charter system. You can't run more than 4 cars regardless if it's full-time or part-time. You can't run more than 4 cars in any organization regardless if you want to have a guy run part-time or not currently at the moment. I think Jimmie Johnson, if he does go to Cup next year and runs a one-off, I think it would be if a team maybe like Spire Motorsports, maybe College Racing, even 2311 Racing could be a team that's up for question. Someone brought that up earlier tonight on Twitter, and I definitely think he could be up for consideration for one of those rides in NASCAR. I think that what tracks could Jimmie Johnson come back to? I look at a track like Auto Club, which are going to be a short track in 2023, especially that being his hometown track. I can see that being the question. Maybe Sonoma. Sonoma is another track than his hometown track. I think that the 3 most likely, though, are going to be Darlington for the Southern 500 or the throwback race. The Daytona 500, and the Indy NASCAR doubleheader. And I think those are the 2 biggest ones you have to really look at right now for him to potentially come back. And I really think the Daytona 500 is the most likely. Jimmie Johnson is the biggest event for him, and especially with him being a 2-time Daytona 500 champion, he definitely would be a guy that would be in the running to get a really, really good ride. So I really hope Jimmie Johnson does come back at some point. Again, I think it would be really, really big for the sport if a driver like Jimmie Johnson did come back, and I think it'd be big for the sport for sure. If we can see a driver like Jimmie Johnson make his return to NASCAR, it would be very, very exciting news for sure. And now we're going to jump on to the next major story of today's episode, as we are talking about Kyle Larson versus Christopher Bell. Now, to give a little backstory in regards to Kyle Larson versus Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell got into a little bit of contact late in the race at Watkins. First, there's a little bit of backstory. They were all battling for the lead with around 40 laps to go in the event. Christopher Bell threw a really, really big block on Kyle Larson going down the front straightaway. Kyle Larson then going into the corner, going to turn 1 with about 35 laps to go. He was there on the corner. He was there on the curb. And he got into Christopher Bell and spun him out. Kyle Larson initially apologized, took 100% the blame. But yesterday, he went on Series 7 NASCAR radio, and he talked about that situation that happened at Watkins Glen. He said this: I reached out and tried, but I guess he's not willing to talk to me, which is kind of whatever. I think an adult would at least have a conversation with you, but he doesn't care to. So we'll move on from it. If he wants to get me back, that's fine. Whatever. I'm not going to worry about it. If it makes him sleep better at night to ignore me and wants to crash me or whatever, so be it. Kyle Larson is being very, very blunt right there. And if you want to ask my thoughts and 2 cents on the situation between Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell, who's in the right and who's in the wrong? First of all, I like both drivers on the team. Kyle Larson is my current favorite NASCAR Cup Series driver at the moment. I think he's the best driver currently in the Cup Series field. But I've been a big fan of Christopher Bell. I think they're 2 of the best dirt racers, and they both have a very, very big rivalry. Mostly a friendly rivalry up to now. They mostly have a friendly rivalry from basically racing in dirt against each other. Arguably 2 of the best dirt racers that currently race in NASCAR at the moment. Also racing on dirt when they go out there. Seems like they're competing for wins regardless of what series they're racing in, regardless of that. Kyle Larson, and I'll talk about this so. I think it is a little bit childish that Christopher Bell is not picking up the phone and talking to Kyle Larson. Even though it's not in the rules, it is the unwritten rule in NASCAR and racing that if you make a mistake and do it, you call somebody or pick up the phone to talk to them. Kyle Larson is doing the right thing by trying to talk to Christopher Bell, especially with their association with racing and stuff. And the fact that we're seeing them both kind of beef over this is a little bit funny to me. The fact that Christopher Bell is not responding. And again, I look at the incident, and Bell's being a little bit childish in that same aspect as well. Because, let's be for real, Kyle Larson was there. Yes, he got in him, but he was literally on the curb and got into him, in my opinion. And to me, if you really look at the situation a lot more closely, I 100% think that Kyle Larson is in the right situation and Christopher Bell. But I will tell you this, the fact he's not picked up that phone, I would not be 100% surprised if we see both of them get into confrontations at the Indy road course. I don't know if one driver or the other driver is going to dump. I don't think both drivers are willing to dump each other, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a situation similar to what happened in Phoenix when Chase Elliott kind of ruined Denny Hamlin's championship. I would not exactly be surprised if that would be the case. But if you really want my thoughts and 2 cents on the situation, I 100% think that Kyle Larson is in the right situation to be a little bit frustrated, and he wants to move on from it. Again, he went on to win the race. I understand he's not going to be mad, but at the same time, Kyle Larson did nothing wrong. Well, Kyle Larson got into him, so he's a little bit wrong there, but I honestly personally think that Christopher Bell is more in the wrong, in my honest opinion, on that. That is just my honest opinion. And now we're going to jump on to the final major story of today's episode. As we are talking about Kurt Busch, we have talked about this on the channel time and time again about Kurt Busch is still the most likely to go to 23XI Racing in the 2022 season. Well, apparently this weekend, and this had not been reported really by any big journalist except a guy named Zach Strabo, who works at Front Stretch and also works at NASCAR.com and is a freelance contributor as well. He reported that Kurt Busch says that the deal is close to being done, and it's a matter of time setting the announcement days for that. Kurt Busch originally wanted to have the announcement out by his birthday about a week ago today, but basically that has changed, and he would like to have, says the announcement is very close to being done. I don't think it's a big secret. It is believed right now that Kurt Busch is the most likely to go to 23XI Racing for the 2022 season. The reason is he was in the running, maybe go to Trackhouse Racing or maybe Chip Ganassi Racing, with Chip Ganassi Racing getting bought out by Trackhouse Racing and Trackhouse Racing taking Ross Chastain over Kurt Busch because Justin Marks really likes him. I think it's no secret at this point that Kurt Busch is the most likely to go over there. And I think that this move overall is going to make a lot of sense in the long run for 23XI Racing. Number one, Kurt Busch is actually going to technically be in the same meetings as his brother Kyle Busch. They're going to be able to work together, even though they won't be able to work as well together, because again, they both have beat in the past back in 2007, but I think they're still on pretty good terms. But Kurt Busch and Kyle Busch will be able to work together basically in the same berth, and basically said, Kurt has tweeted, Kurt knows probably about the plan, and I think that is going to 23XI Racing. The second reason is the sponsorship front. 23XI Racing wants to expand and believe that they are going to get a second charter from Rickware Racing, with Rickware planning downsize 2 cars next year, 2 competitive cars next year. It is believed that 23XI is probably already acquired that charter, and that's probably what is going to happen. I would assume that. They're going to need sponsorship, though, to do that. And Kurt Busch brings one major sponsor that he's basically had for the last 7-8 years. That is Monster Energy. I think that Monster Energy funding and that Monster Energy sponsorship, I think, will be very important to bring Kurt Busch into the organization. And not only that, he's going to be able to help out a driver that's currently racing with 23XI Racing, and that is Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace, I think, needs a championship caliber driver to really work with them. Of course, Kurt Busch is the champion in 2004, and Kurt Busch, it doesn't matter what team he runs for, he will be very competitive. I mean, he was competitive with Phoenix Racing. That team was really bad, and he was competitive with an organization like Phoenix Racing. He went to Furniture Racing, and he was really the person that kind of got that team on the right foot. And it wasn't 100% Mark Truex Jr. got the team on the right foot, but it really started off with Kurt Busch making that team make the playoffs for the first time in their careers, and was pretty competitive in that year as well. And even 2012 was pretty competitive with that team as well when Regan Smith was let go, or Regan Smith went over to 88 car and raced for Dale Earnhardt, substitution for Dale Earnhardt Jr. He had concussion protocols. He raced over there. Now, talking about expectations, if this does go through, I think that Kurt Busch will win a race. I absolutely think he'll win a race. Not only that, I think that he will actually improve Bubba Wallace as well. Get Bubba Wallace to becoming a much better driver. And I think both drivers will win next year. I think that they will be a much better team next year. I think a lot of the struggle this year, and a lot of people, the reason people are skeptical of this move, that it is to happen, is because Kurt Busch, this team, they haven't had a lot of things go their way this year. They've only had 1 top 5 and 1 top 10 this year. But I do think that this team has shown that they are capable of finishing the top 5 and top 10 on a given week when they have a lot of speed. Except on the road courses, it seems like on all of the other tracks, they should potentially right now with Bubba Wallace have at least 8 or 9 victories this year. So if Kurt Busch is truly going over to 23XI Racing, which is believed to happen here very soon, again, we're not exactly sure when it's going to happen. I would assume it's going to happen really soon, probably within this month. I would not be surprised if it does get revealed and get announced. I think it's going to be big for 23XI Racing to get a driver, because regardless of what team Kurt Busch goes to, that team, I think, is going to last in a very long run. So I think a deal is going to happen overall, and I'm definitely hoping it does go through. Again, we don't have confirmation, but it is believed at this point that Kurt Busch is going to go to 23XI Racing next year in the 2022 season. So, anyway, that's going to today's NASCAR news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, turn notifications to notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Support page on links below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. Do you think Kurt Busch ends up at 23XI Racing in 2022, or you think he's going to retire at the end of this year? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about the Kyle Larson versus Christopher Bell feud? Do you think that feud should not be happening at this point, or do you think it's a little bit? Do you think that Kyle Larson's right, or do you think Christopher Bell isn't right? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great and awesome NASCAR content like this. Take care, everybody.